Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 21st episode of the Dandelion Reflections with my dear co-host, Caroline. Hello, Caroline.
Hi, Christopher. Welcome, everyone. We have a guest today, and I'll let
Yes,
Christopher introduce our guest. We're very excited.
yes, our guest today is Henning Bech. Uh, Henning, who are
Yeah.
you anyway?
Oh, that's the mystery of the world. No, I'm a Dane living in Sweden. I have a wife and two daughters. I'm a coach, and I've done just about any kind of technical consultancy within IT over the years. And done some tax work and some military service and so on. So I'm a buffet of experiences, so I think that frames me quite well.
Wonderful.
So,
Welcome, Henning. Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
yes, Henning. So I'd like to start off with something that came into my mind from your introduction. Uh, the tech world. You have many years in tech world and have um, been assisting change in the tech world too, right? Uh,
Yeah.
so um, and in our blog, we talk a lot of about resilience, um, emotions. How much place is there for emotions in the tech world, you know?
I'll say with the right leaders, there's plenty. Uh,
Mm.
but if you just zoom in on the business, there will never be room, right? Because the tech world is about 99.99% uptime on systems and quick service because else it costs the clients money. So of course there's high focus on making sure everything is up and running and constant focus on reducing the risk of downtime. But in reality, if you work the right way, you can absolutely have room for both reflection and resilience and empathy and all the big words. So
So
the
there's hope.
IT, yeah, absolutely. And again, it's very much a matter of the leadership approach in companies. And I think we all experienced that there've been some good leaders and some less good leaders.
Mhm.
And for some environments, you even talk about toxic leaders that definitely do not focus on people's resilience, just squeezing the lemon to the
Mhm.
final drop. And then they regret it most likely because it's not always there's redundancy for all sides of the trade.
Exactly.
So, what would a leader fostering resilience in an organization look like?
I'll say that's a really good question. That's I think it starts with embracing that we all make mistakes.
Mm.
Because if you foster an environment where it is fatal to make mistakes, you take away, say, one of the important parts of resilience because you get anxious just from doing your work. If there's
Mm.
no room for failure, then I mean, I was brought up with if you don't make mistakes or have failure, you're not doing enough.
Wow.
Because then you're playing it safe, and in the tech
Mm.
world, you can't play it safe in that way. You have to deliver all the time, so if you don't allow that, even though it's high stakes, you will still be able to continue even if you make mistakes. Then you start off putting, I would say, the foundation for growing resilience in your people.
I would like to take up this sentence that you just said, be becoming anxious just from doing your work. This must be horrible for many people in that work environment, and expecting people to constantly being in the red zone for their stress limits. And oh my God, I can't. I've never worked in tech. Well, that's not true. For 4 months I did. Well, however, um, it this is an environment that seems to, just push out burnt out people all the time. What is your, what can you, actually, that's a question for both of you. How do people cope with this, Caroline? I could imagine that you have some people, uh, some of your clients from may be from tech
Mhm.
businesses. I don't know. Uh, Whoever wants to go first.
I'll let Henning go and see if I can add to that.
I'm happy to go first. So, well, eh, first of all, being in the red zone is not necessarily bad. What I've experienced is that if you have the right environment where people feel safe in doing what they do, what, not being afraid of, oh, I'll be punished, or I will risk losing my job, then if you have people, high performing people, and a lot of people are high performing, then the challenge of mastering whatever it is they are experts in actually gets the most fun in the red zone, because that's where it's difficult. When you're in the amber zone, then you have a nice mix of quite standard challenges. It's just amount of things that needs to be done, and then sometimes you have a spike of something that, oh, that's interesting. But if it's really the stakes, then sometimes you get a challenge where you get an opportunity to grow. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to live that. But if you can't gear down sometimes and have someone else step in and take the relay and get a break, then of course it will not be healthy for you in the long run. But being in a stress environment is not necessarily bad for your resilience either. But if you feel like you both have to do that and then live up to different sets of expectations, the companies, maybe specifically your boss and your own. I mean, one of the things I realized early on in my IT career was that I was often the hardest on myself compared to others. So what I meant to be the outcome was typically much stricter than the actual expectation. And if you don't find a way to deal with that and learn from that, then you can jeopardize your own resilience without even needing help for it. So it doesn't have to be a toxic leader or a wrong working environment. You can absolutely bring yourself out of sync and have consequences from that. I don't know if that's something you can relate to, Caroline.
Well, I like what you said. It resonated, Henning, especially the part about safety. And stress is okay, anxiety is okay as long as we're safe to explore, to make mistakes, and we're supported. So I think stress is actually necessary to get us engaged and keeping us engaged in a task. If there's zero stress, we might be apathetic. And we know that people who are retired after decades of working, suddenly overnight they stop commuting, they stop talking to their colleagues, and they can get depressed. So having some stress inoculation is important to keep us alert and even productive in a way. But it's a zone, it's a kind of a window that we need to find. And yes, if there's toxicity, then that interferes with that. And you talked about different color zones. So I'm not sure the red versus amber. But yeah, being in an optimal zone, I think, yeah, that's what we're looking for. And keeping the employee engaged. I know for myself, if I have a project that's out of the ordinary, that breaks my routine, I'm going to have good dopamine in my brain, and I'm going to be productive, and I'm going to be satisfied with what I do, even though it might be stressful, yes, because there's a deadline, but it doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
It's actually just to take I know that my coloring might not follow the standard, but the red is definitely up there where everything is at stake and you are
Mm-hmm.
time limited and so on. The amber zone will for many people be the optimal zone where they have a good mix of
Yeah.
standard routine and the eventual challenge that will help them grow. And then there's the green zone in my book where everything is so structured and controlled that
Mm.
actually a lot of people get stressed because they never get challenged.
Mm. Mm.
So what I've learned both from my own reflection, but also from coaching different types of clients, is that the single most important word in where you thrive is, do you feel a purpose?
Oh, wow. Yes.
When you have a purpose, you can go through fire and
Mm-hmm.
the worst, uh, and you can also live. I know people that thrive, really thrive in the very quiet. They don't need action, but
Mm-hmm.
as soon as they lose contact with their purpose, they get hyper stressed, even more than some
Mm.
other people do in the red zone. So purpose is maybe the key factor in your resilience, at least from what I've experienced.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very interesting and important part you shared there. Um, so the purpose, is it is it who is the one that's taking that's working out the purpose of themselves? Is it actually, I know the answer, but I still want to ask the question. Is it the leadership that needs to trickle down the purpose, or is it everyone and every individual for themselves that should shape, okay, I'm working here, this is my workplace, this is my desk. What am I doing this for? Or who am I doing this for? So maybe you can give some thoughts there. Who
Absolutely. So
who's the one responsible?
I will say that's the best news I can give you. It's each of us because
Mm-hmm.
and the reason I say it's the best news, it's because it's something you can control.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can come and give you a purpose that you buy into. Well, we probably all met people that read you well and understand you, but not from point blank where they don't know you at all. Then it's a lucky strike if someone brings you a task that just triggers your purpose, right? If they don't know anything about you, but
Mm-hmm.
you know something about you, and something you sometimes you know way more about you than you realize. So if you zoom in on yourself then look at what are your values, what are your strengths, what do I like to do, and why do I like to do it? What don't I like to do, and why don't I like to do it? And
Mhm.
then out of that, you can filter out what lies behind it, or what is your current sense of purpose. And why I say current is because it changed over life. It might be in the same area, but as the years go by and we learn more about ourselves and what we are doing currently and other people around us, it might it might follow a different path. But I mean, for me, my sense of purpose has always been around helping other people,
Mhm.
but it's just been in very different ways that I've done it over my entire career, right? And and uh, and it started out from a place I didn't really expect it, because I had a tough time during school, and I felt that I didn't fit in at all. And there was a nice line of people wanting to tell me that I wouldn't make it to anything. And that's not an easy start. But looking back, I think it was an optimal start.
Can I just stop you there 1 second?
Yeah.
Please don't forget all the wonderful things you will say
Okay.
in a minute, but this is so important. Wow. So you look back and you see with gratefulness maybe even that the hardships that you went through, you were sitting there and I don't know, don't didn't understand why is this happening to me? Uh, and then X number of years later, you look back and say, wow, this was actually great for me. And did you ever, in your younger years, think of that this might happen sometime in the future?
I'll say it started with triggering anger.
Mm,
So I got really angry. At that time, I didn't understand that I have actually fed into the other's behavior, which just brought more of it. So had I been older and wiser when I was in school, I would have played it differently, right?
mm.
But when it was all done and I we had graduated from the regular school, then I was just angry about the situation. I wanted to show everybody that whatever they said was not true.
Mm.
And honestly, the first 5, 7 years after school, it wasn't a positive thinking I had around that. It was just, I'll show everyone, and every time I got a chance to prove something wrong, it was like, yes, I really showed them. But then everything kind of settled down, and I started more reflecting about what was it I was actually celebrating, because it felt empty when I was celebrating that I proved them wrong.
Mm.
Mm.
And then started a journey to find out, what does it mean for me? Because they were not there, right?
So your why changed at that moment.
Yeah, it changed. So it was more like, okay, uh, virtually I have proven them wrong because I actually achieved something, but most of them never experienced it, so they
Mm.
never heard about it.
Mhm.
Right? So I to this day I wouldn't even know if they thought I made it. Right? And today it's absolutely not important at all. But at that time, in my early 20s, it was very important. And I met my old teacher, who was one of those that said that I would never make it. And when I told him that I had started to work in the IT business, then he changed his view, and all his good pupils were becoming something within IT. And I at first I thought, oh, okay, he's getting old. He forgot what he said, and then I realized it doesn't matter because I forgive him.
Wow.
And then that was the first start of it's not really important because everything people around you do, you might feel it's against you, but part of the resilience is if you might not like the message, but there
Mhm.
might be words in the message that is worth something to you. And then take those words and forget the message and say, okay, what can I do with these? It's like, you're trying to cook something you want to surprise your friends or your spouse or something. You cook something new and you put a new ingredients in, and then I do a little, and you taste a little every time. And every time you taste, there's a new perspective. Even when cooking, it's a matter of perspective, right? And then it's not important what you thought the dish should be if the experience of it is great. And that's probably the biggest thing that I left behind was it. I was no longer trying to produce the dish that everybody else measured as success. I was trying to create my own dish. And it has changed a lot over the years. So it's like if you have a task to produce something, and then you have a series of ingredients, but you only have one of each ingredient. Then every time you produce something, it will be new.
Mhm. Right.
You might call it something the same, but it will be new because there'll be small differences.
Absolutely. What a
No.
great gift your story is, Henning. Thank you so much. I have a lot of thoughts going on, a lot of experience hearing you, and I think you're very eloquent in how you present this, and I just can't help but think that you had to prove to yourself your own worth through this because you didn't feel a satisfaction once you proved others wrong. But what if it was to be acquainted with your own worth? Because I noticed that in a lot of people in the audience, certainly in my own story, have gone through rejection, judgment, massive abuse, and attacks, and eventually they stood up and realized of their own worth. The others were there to teach them that. But at first, it doesn't look like it, right? We are more like a victim and we identify with the victim role. But eventually, we stand in our power because we are confronted with our own potential. And it seems like you've expressed your potential. It seems like those experiences brought you to that and brought so much wisdom. I see the process. It's so inspiring. So I wanted to comment on that and thank you.
Thank you. So, and again, that's really, and thank you for the comment. It's that I think that was the first time I realized with myself that my purpose was the key driver.
Okay.
Because before I was chasing what other people thought was important. And then I shifted. So, and I didn't get it right every time. Absolutely not. But I started practicing, I would say, focusing on what do I see as my purpose? And every time, whether it was as IT consultant or hotline support or even some of the army service I did on and off, it was about getting people through some sort of challenge
Mm.
and helping them get to a better situation, whether it was with themselves or with whatever they were working with. It could be an IT system or just a process, how they were doing it, or definitely also how they held themselves. Yeah. So purpose is the key. Absolutely.
It reminds me of the concept ikigai, and we talked about that in other podcasts. You're
Yeah,
familiar with the Japanese concept, right? So
yeah, yeah.
it's not something we can prescribe. And I know with patients I work with who have a lot of depression and distress, often a sense of purpose is lacking. And like you said, we have to find it for ourselves. And I can't prescribe that to them. I can only ask them, what makes you come to life? What makes you feel alive? And maybe that will point into the direction of that purpose. So I don't know if you have any other questions like that or any ways to access that or to find one's own purpose, because a lot of people struggle with that.
But I'll say what I used, and it always makes me laugh a bit when I talk about it, is when you take an onion
Mm.
and you start to peel it, then it will bring tears, right? And so the exercise I sometimes use it depends on the situation, but then when I talk to someone and they say, okay, so if you imagine you have this onion and the thin layer outside is what you think people expect of you right now. You
Mhm.
just peel that off. And then the next layer is typically what are your closest friends expecting of you? Because they have good and bad intentions, right? And they all have a perspective that it's something that they think will be good for you. But peel away those, and
Mhm.
and then you probably have some in your family that might be a cousin or a brother, sister, some, and you can peel away those as well. And it's not necessarily easy, but before you get to the heart of you, you have to peel away everything you think your parents expected or wanted from you or for you. And once you try that thinking exercise, first of all, there's a good chance that tears will be running because you've peeled a lot in an onion, right? But once you get in there and say, okay, from this perspective, you've taken away all these layers of other expectations. How do you feel now? If those were not there, how would that leave you? And then start to take from that perspective, what opportunities can you see? And that can both be, what do I need to learn? Or what do I need to test if I actually feel comfortable doing it? Or different, depending on the situation, there can be many questions, but say, well, look from here and look towards whatever it is you want with this area. And I think we all have experienced some different versions of the balance wheel that looks in different parts of your life. And it's also very specific about one part, but in 8 dimensions and so on. So you can take everything, and once you peel away all the expectations you think you have on you, and then just say, okay, if I'm to define how to wrap my onion from here, what would I want as the next layer? So yeah, that could be one way to do it.
That's brilliant. I'll remember that onion peeling exercise. I'll do it for myself.
So
Thank you for sharing that. Very
I have
creative.
this feeling that we are in the middle of an episode that people might want to rewind and watch again. That this is a lot of very important and useful information here. Thank you very much, Henning, so far. But we're not done yet.
No, no, no. Hopefully not.
We want more.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So
So I know that you have met and meet a lot of leaders in your work as a career coach and coach without career because it's all intertwined, right? I know from you that and from what you just said, it's all in the onion. You can't just look at career without looking at everything around you. Career is just one peel of this onion. So, but how? Let me ask, how can a good leader support their people? The this I don't really like the word subordinates, but let's say colleagues, uh, to find this balance that is so important, while of course helping them be in the right green, amber, or red zone each time of the day.
well, and that's probably the biggest challenge because people see through you. So the only way for a leader to succeed in doing just that is to walk the walk and talk the talk. So you can't just say all these things that can generate the space, because what I've seen from my own and my leadership style has evolved around that over the years is that people look at, he said this, but what did he do himself? So if you say all these things because you want to create a safe environment for your people, but you are not giving yourself a safe environment, then it's very hard to trust that it will work. So the first step for a leader is to take their own medicine. Create this for yourself before, and it's the oxygen mask from the airplanes, right? If you don't take on your oxygen mask first, you can't really help anyone. And it goes whether you're trying to build resilience or whether you want to be empathic in your leadership style. If you don't live it, it becomes fake. And people will not trust. If you're in a tense environment where people actually need all this, they won't trust that it's safe to swallow the pill, right? If the leader is not swallowing it themselves. So that's the first step. Live what you want others to live. Yeah.
Practice what you preach.
Yes. There are many good ways of saying that, but you can't I mean I've even had talks with leaders that say, well, I don't really believe in this, but I know my people need it. Okay. But you won't succeed then.
No.
So if you know the people need it, but you don't believe it, then you need to find out what is it. If you can't believe in all of it, what is it you can believe in? Then you need to focus your energy there. And for some leaders, it just won't happen. And for others, they will maybe succeed in small areas first and then spend more time reflecting on themselves and learn more. And then those areas will grow. But unless you are willing to grow yourself, as part of this journey, you can't give it to someone. It's not a thing that you can just hand over to someone and then they got it. Now there's psychological safety. Okay. Says the man that is running around like a headless chicken, right? And trying to serve everybody and not taking care of himself or herself, then why should I believe that this is the way to go?
Well, exactly. And again, I had this image while you were talking and answering this. I saw dogs are looking. If you're trying to raise a dog and the dog is looking for a leader, right? That uh, it can trust. Uh, a horse, it's the same thing. A horse is so powerful and still seeks uh, to cooperate. It could just run away, but it wants to cooperate but it also needs a leader that it can trust.
Yeah.
Your average teenager at home is searching for the same thing: a home, parents, tr trustful caregivers that are there for them. And the same thing with the people that you are um, responsible for at work. They are looking for a leader that can can give them this we feeling. We are all one. And I think this is so powerful if leaders can actually find a way to imply this idea and to give their people this trust, and then miracles are possible, I think. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I think a good step in that process is to acknowledge with yourself that, and that goes both for your teenager at home and for your co-workers, is you cannot be their friend. So your role is not being their friend. And as a parent, your role is not being a friend with your teenager. It doesn't mean that you can't be a friend, but it's not your role. Your role as a parent is to help the teenager grow into someone that can stand on their own two legs and fare well in the world. And as a leader, you have to be the person that they can trust will always do to the utmost extent what is the best for their people. And that's the reason you can't be their friend. You will also be the one that when the company is not meeting their targets, will have to come and tell, I have to say goodbye to some of you. So you can't be their friend, but you can be someone that cares for their well-being and will do what you can to help them succeed. But sometimes decisions are made that means that you have to say goodbye. And likewise with your teenagers, sometimes you have to say, no, that is just not possible.
It's about setting boundaries
Yeah.
as a way to love and, like you said, help them have the resilience to be self-directed adults.
Yeah.
In this world.
So,
yeah.
And I mean, one of the things that and that was actually a revelation for myself. I was leading a team of very, very competent technical people, and they had 30 or 40 years of service in the company, and one of the first things that I started to do was say, okay, so what's your alternative to doing what you do today? What are you saying? I've been doing this for 30 or 40 years. Yeah. But what happens if I come in 3 months and tell you I can no longer sell the service that you deliver?
Mhm.
What are you going to do? Oh, I don't know. Okay, let's find out, because it might be that you have 10 years more of doing this and then you retire. But it can also be because the tech business, where I experience this the most, it changes, and it changes faster and faster every year. And something that earlier was something that you can charge a lot for doing the service is something that is more of a commodity today. So the customers, the clients don't want to pay for it. And rule of thumb is, if customers are willing to have the service sent to a low salary country, then it's no longer as important. It still needs to work, but it's not as important that they want to be paying a premium price. So a part of helping people build resilience is helping them on the journey that gives them options.
Mhm.
So you're not just waiting for the big bang where someone comes and tells you, sorry, Henning, we can't use you for this role anymore. Okay. But if I help my people do stuff that gives them options, then when we start seeing that winds are blowing in different direction, we can start take action. But you can't learn to a professional level within a few months something that you will be competing against people that saw the shift 2 years ago and then started preparing for it. And that's maybe one of the other keywords of resilience is you need to have some sort of preparation.
So purpose while keeping our options open and being
Yeah,
flexible.
yeah. And then daring to test out things. Because once you're on that journey to find out, okay, if my purpose is this today, but that might not be interesting to the employer within a short period of time, or even to myself in a short period of time, what should my new purpose be? And then try out stuff. And it might be, oh, that was a terrible choice. That will never work for me. Okay, fine. But as I also say in my talk around my book, is failure is feedback. Failure is not final, it's just feedback. It just tells you something that you need to reiterate on or make a decision. No, this is simply not for me. I mean, back in, was it 2000, 2001, I took a timeout because I actually didn't know whether I wanted to continue in the IT business. I've been in a company that bankrupted, the dot-com bubble burst, and it so I took a time out and I said, well, it could be a future if I could just pick up programming, because I used to do some fair programming in Pascal, but the big hype around there was the different versions of C. Right? So I said, okay, I need to learn C. And so I started to spend some time learning to program. And I just realized, first of all, I don't like C. And second of all, I can't see myself doing this day in and day out. So regardless of how good opportunities for a job there is, if I learn, it won't be part of my purpose to write great code. So I just dropped it. And I had no alternative at that time. So I was saying, okay, so in 3 to 5 months, I need some sort of income. So what can it be if it's not programming or coding? And I started to consider what I really like to do. And then I've been blessed over the years. Then a good friend of mine reached out and said, "Well, we're actually looking for a hotline supporter." And it's you can use your knowledge about IT, but this is about resource management and shop floor planning and so on. We have this system that we sell to companies where they can keep track of people's work time and do shift planning and all these things, and we could use a hotline supporter. Oh, okay, it's something. And I ended up applying for the job, and I got the job, and I started doing that, and I felt this sense of purpose, even though I didn't like. I like the tech challenge in it, but I didn't like sitting and look at payroll profiles and why they didn't work and so on. So that part wasn't it. But I got to talk to people and help some people, and that was great. And then later on, I moved to the development department, not as a coder, but as second level support and working with the developers on what we could do and do second level support to clients, helping the. So it's a matter of finding out, allow yourself to make wrong choices because we all make wrong choices every day. I think
Failure.
all,
I'll remember that, Henning.
yeah. So and it's I mean even as a parent you can make a gazillion wrong choices just within the time span of dinner.
Yes.
And you have to deal with kids that really don't like the perspective of whatever you were discussing.
So true.
But then you regroup and then you try again, right? And as long as you remember that regardless of what they say, you still love them. And that's the same with people you work with. Regardless of how they made you feel right now, we're still colleagues. We're trying to achieve something. We might need a different talk to find out why we got in a position to say these things to each other, but we're still on the same team. And that's maybe one more thing in your resilience toolbox is just because you don't agree doesn't mean you can't do things together. Because if you need everybody around you to agree with what you do, chances are you can't do your best work. And if you can, then you have too little challenges. That's my claim.
Wow. That's wow. That's a big one too. All right. I want to think about that one too. That's a very interesting thing to consider. Well, I think we're going a little towards the somewhere 50-minute mark. Um, so let's try to round this wonderful talk up and look towards the ending. Henning, you've mentioned your book that you wrote, Pivotal Edge. Could you hold up a copy into
Absolutely.
the camera? Right. And we will link in the comments to where people can look at it and eventually, hopefully, buy it, and to your website too. It's on
Yeah.
Amazon, right?
Yeah, but
Amazon.com.
if you link pivotaleDge.me, then there's links to all the places on Amazon you can get the book and the companion notebook. It's instead of using a blank notebook, you can use my notebook, which has extra reflection questions and some
Right.
different designs on the paper that you can use for your reflection journey, even after the book.
Right.
Yeah.
And who would be your ideal client?
Well, my I think my ideal client either have the position of leader or find themselves informally taking leadership
Hmm.
every day, right? That's my I would say preferred client. But that said, anybody that reads the book can make discoveries on themselves and make changes to their career. But if I was to stop people on the street and have a talk about the book, I would reach out to leaders.
And let me
And
just say, parents are leaders too.
parents are leaders. And actually, I did a test not so long ago with when I talked to different people around leadership and first response with many people, despite how much has happened in the world the past 20 years, is they see their former leader as the leader. And then I said, okay, so you have your former leader, but how many of your daily tasks do you actually control yourself without necessarily interacting with your leader? Oh, that's and some said 50%, and some said 60, and others more than that. Okay, so that means that for all the time you don't interact with your leader, you are actually leading your task.
Hmm.
So in reality today, I'll say everybody is a leader, but some might be a leader to a small extent, and others are almost full scale. And that can be a challenge in itself. If you don't feel that you have leaders to lean on, that might actually challenge your resilience.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
so uh, so if you have to carry the load of responsibility for everything without formally having the delegation to be responsible, then you will find challenges that affects your resilience.
Yes.
But
It,
that's a good opportunity for your next employee talk with your leader, your manager. What is to what extent can I lead what I do, and to what extent do you expect me to report what I decide?
hmm.
And just from own experience, don't have that talk if you don't trust your leader. Then find
Oh,
another leader to have that talk with.
I see.
Yeah. Because if you don't trust the leader, everything you say, you put on the scale saying, what can he or she use that against me on? And
Oh my
that's
God, yes.
that's
Mm.
not fun for your resilience. So if you trust the leader, have that talk because it might open up doors of opportunity. Saying, okay, oh, so you want to take leadership? I actually have a good task for you then. because I
Hmm.
have this thing that I don't feel I can put enough time and effort into. And then you might get something that adds to your purpose and with a little more responsibility and challenge.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you for this too, Henning.
Thank you.
Caroline,
It's
is there anything?
I'm just walking away from this wonderful conversation with food for reflection, and
Oh
I'm going
yeah.
to continue to meditate on my purpose as I peel the onion in my life and all the expectations and shedding them, and also thinking about reframing failure as a feedback, and also using divergent views in a way that's constructive and working together. I think that's also a great takeaway message. So thank you
Mhm.
so much, Henning.
And then the hardest, of course, I left the hardest for last, right? We should all, and that goes for me as well, we should all continuously practice forgiving ourselves.
Mm, right.
Because if we can't forgive ourselves, we will be reluctant to stretch ourselves. And then your next purpose might not be as clearly visible. So forgive yourself. So, and then keep on stretching.
So many
That
of us needed to hear that, Henning. Thank you.
so,
Keep on
yes,
stretching. Wow, I love this.
it's
Hen.
I'm told that stretching builds flexibility. So so I should probably stretch a little extra.
Colleen, didn't you do yoga?
I used to. I mostly walk and jog and swim these days, but I would like to go back to yoga because it's really good to decreasing inflammation and it's a good meditation practice as well,
Hmm.
integrating mind and body. So yoga is great. Yeah, for stretching, for physical and mental flexibility. Yes, and emotional resilience. I recommend.
Sorry, you trigger me. I hope we have time for one last thing, because
Yes.
when you feel that your resilience is shaken, or feel that you can't really find a way forward in whatever you do, and it doesn't have to be a big thing, it can just be a small thing, then if you drink coffee, then take your coffee and
Mhm.
then just focus on smelling it, watching it, tasting it, and not focus on anything else, and just
Yes.
take a slurp or how you want it, and then let it rest in your mouth and just try to figure out the taste and so on. Because sometimes our resilience is challenged by, uh, I don't know if you saw The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. One part, there was a Japanese guy that said, "Too many minds." So
Mhm.
he was fighting with wooden swords against a very skilled Japanese soldier, and he kept being beat because he had too many minds. And the exercise, and it can be coffee or an apple or what you like, something that you want to enjoy. Just zoom in on that. Take away the too many minds. Just focus on one thing. And I promise you, if you do that for 5 to 10 minutes, you will find a way forward on whatever it was that didn't work before.
Good grounding technique, bringing ourselves back into one moment, the present moment, doing an activity like that, like drinking coffee, one sip at a time.
One step at a time. Yeah.
And
And
that would activate the right brain hemisphere, which is the creative one, the one that finds new ideas and paths and
Right.
actually wants to walk through new doors.
yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah. So Well, it has been a really big pleasure to have a conversation with the two of you. So thank you very much for having me.
Our
Like
pleasure indeed.
training. What an honor. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much. Really, really a lot to take home from this talk. And yes, thanks everyone who joined us today. And don't forget to leave us a like if you liked this episode and consider following us on YouTube and on Facebook. Don't forget our Facebook page.
And
Thanks
share
a lot.
the link to this podcast and this episode if you think a friend or relative or your boss or a colleague would benefit from the
Yeah.
wisdom.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank
Bye
Thank
bye,
you.
you.
Henning.
Be
And
well.
bye,
Bye-bye.
Caroline.
Bye, Henning. Bye, Christopher.
Bye-bye.